Hello, check, check. How is my sound? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Let's see, I'm trying to adjust this bracelet and I don't want to use my teeth. I'll just maybe take off and not worry about it. You know me and my jewelry. So, how are you guys today, my invisible viewers? I have my cursor back. I'm so excited. Oh man, it is awful not having it. So there, I'm on live chat. I can highlight the chats and everything. So yeah, yesterday I was pretty stressed and pressured trying to do my video because there was a lot going on in my life, and it's terrible when I'm stressed and pressured in my videos. Anna Bees, hello, hello. How was work? Did you work last night or do you work tonight? Nice to see you. Look, I have my cursor back. I'm so excited. I think you're the only one here. It's just the two of us, my dear, at the moment. So, yeah, how are you today? It is Friday. It's almost the Memorial Day weekend. I've got the most giant cup in the world. That's just about right for me. So I can get my Java on. Only 2 cups. They're just like 32 ounces each, right? So let's see, where shall I start? I'm going to just fidge it the way I always do. Please hit your subscribe button. Make sure you're still subscribed and share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. I'm not going to worry about the glare over there. I'll just read it out loud to you. Turn on your notification bell to ring a ding ding. And please hit your like button. Anna B says, I worked Wednesday and I worked tonight. Oh, okay. So your first day back was the night before last. Why did I think it was yesterday? I don't know. I can barely keep up with myself sometimes. So forgive me if I can't keep up with other people too. But how was it? How are you feeling? It was a bit rough Wednesday night. Hopefully it'll go better. Yeah, it can be hard when you're first back for sure. And hopefully you missed it. If you didn't get a chance to miss it, then maybe you need to take some more time off if you can, if you're allowed. It's nice when you can be away from your routine enough that you're just dying to get back to it, I find. But then I'm like a routine oriented person. So I love my routine, but I love adventure too when I force myself to go off into the unknown. I like the known better than the unknown. So everything I say is simply my opinion. Trying to start a conversation, hopefully open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an infotainment platform. Trying to get my eyeglasses cleaner. See which one I can grab fastest. I guess this one, since there's no eyeglasses cleaner in there. Do you find it's like pens? I have so many, but then I never have one handy when I need it. So now I can't read what you're writing. I did miss it, but I did have to go back. Yeah. Well, that's good that you had a chance to miss it. That's the best. I like to say it's good to miss. Like when I worked full time, when I was a new mom, my clients would ask me, like, don't you miss your kids when you're at work? My first thought was like, yeah, I was fine until now. Now I want to go see them. So thank you. My second thought was, it's good to miss because too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And at least I had flexibility with my hours and my husband's schedule. And we also had a full-time nanny. So it worked out pretty well. But yeah, I definitely believe it is good to miss. And now my glasses thing came apart on me. Let me try this again. So yesterday when I was so hurried, fortunately I'm not in a hurry today. I made, I don't know, 1,000 mistakes. When it's like that, my first instinct is to delete because you can't really edit alive. I mean, it what does it do? It takes away all your views, all your comments, all your likes, and I maybe they changed it. It used to take it out of your live videos and put it over in your regular videos, which is fine. I mean, that makes sense. But it was just such a hassle, especially to lose all the comments and stuff like that. So that would, um, for me, it was prohibitive. I didn't want to edit my lives, period. And so I would either do a pre-recorded or I'd do a live. But when I make a big mistake in a live, I want to erase it, not to hide the fact that I made a mistake. I'll be the first one to admit that I make mistakes, but just to prevent spreading bad information. So, like yesterday, I was talking about all of the people that have served our country in Congress, the senators and the House of Representatives, and how many of them have passed away, and how many Democrats and how many Republicans. And I was looking at multiple sources and I was very confused, and my number crunching just went all wonky. I did apologize for that before I started with the numbers because I was afraid that that might happen, but it most certainly did. So let me try to do a little clarification. I did put in the comment section, or I mean in the description section, I put the link to all of the deceased members of Congress that were deceased while serving actively from the last 25 years. So it lists all 45 of them in total. And I did come up with some really interesting statistics just with my own naked eyeballs. Like I said, I'm no statistician. Like, that stuff is like rocket science. It's very confusing, but it's pretty easy to count. Out of 45 lawmakers in 25 years, so from the year 2000 up until currently, out of the 45, 30 of them are Democrats and 15 are Republicans. So I was saying yesterday, it's a pretty dangerous time to be a Democrat, especially to be a Democrat and fly. And I'm being facetious, tongue in cheek. And if you remember the day that helicopter fell apart in the sky in New York and fell into the Hudson River with the family of 5 from Spain, the Seaman Industries executives, the mom and the dad. That day, I think a couple hours before that happened, there was an incident at Ronald Reagan Airport, I think, where one airplane clipped the wing of another airplane. I want to say, well, I won't say what brand of flight they were because I could easily get it wrong. It was the major ones. I think it was either American, United, or Delta. But there were 6 lawmakers on that airplane. I want to say it was flying to New York. It was flying to JFK, which, that is the New York airport, or one of the New York airports. I think there's Newark, JFK, and then Logan is in Boston. But anyway, it was going from Ronald Reagan to JFK, and it had 6 lawmakers on it. The plane's wing got clipped, and out of those 6 lawmakers, 5 of them are Democrats. And the one that wasn't a Democrat was a Republican from New York, from the House of Representatives. And I mean, New York is such a radical leftist community. The big cities usually are, that I would think that that's different than like a Republican from, let's say, Oklahoma, right? Or Texas. But anyway, it seemed to me like not a coincidence that there were 5 Democrats and 6 lawmakers on that airplane. It kind of seemed like a threat to me. Just clipping the plane, just, kind of like showing your muscle, like you could, if you felt like it, you could bump their airplane, you could bump them off. I don't know. I'm extremely suspicious these days. You know, I used to not question it when somebody passed away. I'd just be like, oh, yeah, they passed away from whatever it says they passed away from. And now I'm like, were they cremated? Where did it happen? When did it happen? And how did it happen? And maybe some other questions too. Oh, Anna B's missed yesterday's live. Okay, sorry. See, I missed that. Like, so that when you were in the live the day before yesterday, I was crossing my wires and thinking that was yesterday. So yeah, I was going over some stats. Like, you know, you got to be so careful of your sources too. So this is why I always like to triple, quadruple check things, because you can't believe what you look up on the internet. You just can't. I mean, you can take it with a grain of salt. So I had said in the video a couple of times yesterday, but I at least changed the title, that there were 4 lawmakers, all Democrats, that had passed away since the election. It's actually 3, and it's all in the last 3 months. So there was one in March. Let's see. Do I have the dates written down here? So only 3. Anyway, let's just say since March, right? Republican Jerry Conley and maybe Sylvester Turner. No, that's somebody else. Sorry. Yeah, it's hard to keep it all straight. I try to write things down so that I know what I'm looking at and know what I'm thinking, but you know, I need some secretaries to help me type things up and arrange things. And when I say play the clip, my assistant can just play the clip. It's so hard doing all this stuff all by myself, but that's okay. I like the challenge. I like the independence. So 3 of them since March this year. And I want to say 12 total. No, I'm sorry, 8 total in the last 3 years. So since 2022, I believe it's 8 total. Why don't I just look at the freaking link that I put there in the description? That's why I did it. Dang. My brain, all excited that I'm not in a hurry and that my phone is charged 100%. That means my brain is charged 100%. I titled this video, "Don't Look Into My Eyes," and I put on the thumbnail Don Jr. with his crooked eyes, Cash Patel with his crazy ass bug eyes. Oh, I'm 13 minutes in. I can say ass. And then Donnie with his uneven eyes. So remember the day before yesterday, Anna, you and I were discussing if the picture of Don Jr. might have been flipped, if he has the same lazy eye, because Donnie, it's his right eye that's lazy and the left eye is bugging out. But in my thumbnail, it's the reverse for Don Jr. Anyway, let's go to the why does everything have to change on these all the time? OMG, it's trying to make me sign in. Stop it. It's because my daughter was doing things with my devices last night. So, my apologies. And if it doesn't work, I'll just go to Wikipedia. I'm trying to look up the list that I put the, here we go. I put the list in the description from yesterday's video. The title of yesterday's video was Democrats Dropping Like Flies. 3 just since March, 8 in the last 2.5 years, all Dems, no Republicans. So here we go, the Wikipedia link. Oh, and you know what? It's not going to take me to it. It's going to take me to this OMG. I put it in the comments too because it was, I'll have to put a note in there that you'll have to go to the comments to have that link work. It's not working from the description for some reason, which is crazy. There's always so many problems. So, the following is a list of the United States senators and representatives who have passed away while they were serving their terms after 2000. And I just want to see the entire thing, but it only wants to show me like parts of it at a time. So let's see. Let's go with the 2020s because I just don't want to keep misquoting everything like I was yesterday. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 plus the 3? No. The last 8 have all been Democrats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the last 8. And then 3 prior to that were Republicans. Man, it seems like it's different than... Screw this, man. Anyway, you can look at the list. You can see that there's 8 in a row without any Republicans. And that's going from November 28th of 2022 up until current. And so the last 3 were March 5th of this year, March 13th of this year, and May 21st of this year. So just 2 days ago, the day before yesterday. And that was somebody from Virginia, which is interesting because remember that Virginia attorney that passed away in her sleep the night that Elon was playing with the spoons and forks at the dinner up there in New Jersey at the Bedminster golf course with Donnie and the rest of the crew. So yeah, what it says here is that since 2020, there are 14 that passed away. I can't do math. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes. And see, again, in the information that I was looking at, it said 12 of them are Democrats, and they're incorrect. 8 of the 14 are Democrats. So, or no, 10 of the 14 are Democrats. Anyway, a lot more Democrats than Republicans. I just got to give up on numbers when I'm live, I swear. And so then from 2010 to 2000, it's just all wonky, man. Okay, I got to just give up. No more stats for me because I am screwing it all up. Oh, no, here we go. So from 2000 to 2025 is what I was saying about the 45 who've passed away, 30 of them being Democrats, half of that being Republicans. So it's usually like an average of 2 per year, but then we've already had 3 this year, and they've all been Democrats. There were only 12 in the 10 years from 2010 until 2020. So that's less than 2 a year. And I'm just going to stop myself right there because clearly I do not have the capacity to comprehend any of what I'm saying, right? This is ridiculous. I'm so sorry. Like, I spent hours going over it this morning, like crunching my numbers, like, okay, I know what I'm talking about now. I'm going to clear it all up. But my whole point is that, let's see, I think out of 5 cremations, again, here I go. I'm going to screw myself over. Out of 5 cremations, I want to say that 4 of them were Democrats and 1 was Republican. And there were only 5 cremations out of all of the 45. So what else did I want to say before I just give up on all of this? Yeah, one of these people, she was from Ohio, Stephanie Jones, in 2008. She was only 58 years old, so just like a year older than me. I'm going to be that old this summer. How frightening. She passed away from a cerebral hemorrhage. And then there was one of them that fell down a flight of stairs. I thought that was interesting. So let me just say this. The last Republican to pass away while in office was 3 years ago, this August 3rd. So it was August 3rd, 2022, that Jackie Walorski from Indiana passed away while in office. But my whole point is that it's just a dangerous time to be a Democrat, which isn't surprising to me. It could just be random. It could just be a toss of the dice. I'm not saying that for sure there's a conspiracy, but I am asking if there might be something more to it. Because that is really weird that you would have twice as many Democrats pass away in the same space of time in that same 25 years. 15 Republicans, 30 Democrats. That's quite a contrast. So, oh, yeah. Let's just turn the page on all of that clarification from yesterday. OMG. And Mrs. Amir, hello, hello. I'm glad I'm here today. You always bring interesting ideas that I have never thought of before. Some of these things I've never thought of before. And some of the ideas, of course, I get from other people's videos. And some of them just kind of pop up in my imagination. But I think I want to credit other people's videos that I watch that then make me think of these things. And then I'm surprised nobody's talked about the twice as many Democrats passing away as Republicans. I don't think anyone's ever really talked about any suspicion around the airplane that had its wing clipped on the same day, just a few hours later before that. I'm pretty sure it was the same day, that helicopter that fell apart in the sky. And that whole thing is pretty frightening. And I'm glad you guys are all here today. Mrs. Amir, Anna Bees, and JR Nana Boomer. And yeah, I am just absolutely like shocked, and yet nothing shocks me about this administration, like with the dinner last night and all of the people that had to pay upwards of $1 million to go to that dinner that was not at the White House. It was in Donnie's free time. So if he broke any laws, it doesn't matter because it was in his free time. That's pretty much what Caroline with a K said today, which was interesting. It's like, I'm summarizing, but she's like, it was in his free time. None of it matters. And we're being transparent, but they're not showing anybody the list of the people that were there. And it was like the top 220 Bitcoin purchasers. So everybody spent over $1 million on the Bitcoins. All that money went straight into Donnie's pocket. He's like a bottomless pit for cash, man. He's just a money grubber. Blue cars, are there more plane crashes, or has Google put them all in your algorithm? No, there are more plane crashes, JR Nana. There was a terrible one yesterday I mean, I don't know if you're making fun of me with that. If you are, I'm cool with it. No problem. But there was a really bad plane crash in San Diego yesterday. So I think it happened overnight, the night before last, and the plane crashed into 2 houses and it set like a whole neighborhood on fire. I think 15 houses altogether burned down. A bunch of cars exploded. There was jet fuel everywhere. And this was on a like maybe not military housing, maybe not the Air Force base, but it was pretty much all military housing right by a couple of bases. I mean, San Diego is heavy with military bases, so it's very sad. I think there were 6 people, they said, on board that all passed away, and nobody on the ground passed away, which was awesome. But people were like literally running out of their houses with babes in arms. I think it was at like 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. It was in the wee hours of the morning, I think between 1 and 4, I'm pretty sure. But very sad for the people on the airplane, but also for the people whose houses have been destroyed. I mean, fortunately, none of the folks, the residents living there, passed away, but how stressful to have your neighborhood burn down and your car explode and to just barely get out with your life. And then there were a bunch of dogs that were having to be rescued that were covered in jet fuel. And the Humane Society came in and rescued them all and got them all cleaned up and fed them whipped cream, which was the best news I'd heard in a while, because I have my dogs. I know how much they love whipped cream. Don't we all, right? So hello, all you wonderful, amazing people, sending love and light to all. Yes, it's so nice to see you. It's been a while. You know, I think of your situation, was that like a year ago or so when you were at a yoga class, I think, and some guy came in and was being a perv and you chased after him and got black and blue? That was wild, girl. Like, you are very brave to chase and to fight like that. I hope they found him. Did they arrest him? Because I told you in the practice that I had my training in and that I do all of my classes at, we always have the door locked. Like, they unlock the door to let people in to come into class, and everybody that is coming into class is known. They've all like pre-registered. And then somebody's there watching the door, checking people off as they come in, and then the door is locked immediately. And yeah, you just wouldn't want to have a yoga studio with free access to the public, because yeah, a lot of people are like that. And even if they're not ill-intended, you just don't want people wandering in and bumbling around in your waiting area when you're doing yoga. You want to have everything quiet and secure. So that was just very alarming, and I was bummed for you that that had happened, but I was proud of you for being so tough too. It's okay, but there is more Democrats than Republicans. It is quite a contrast. But did these deaths happen in groups of 3s? Anything else would be unusual. Well, again, I don't know if you're being facetious or not. The list is in Wikipedia, and I put a link to it in the description yesterday. That doesn't work, but I put the link also in the comments, and it does work from in the comments to take you to the site where it has the list of all 45 people. And it says if they're Democrat or Republican, it says the age, the date, the state that they represent, what they passed away from, and where they're buried, or if they were cremated. So now that I think about it, it's not that there are more or less, it's how fast they're replacing before there's an opening. Well, that's a really good point, JR Nana, because with the 3 Democrats that have passed away, I think that the president can appoint people, at least temporarily, until there's the election. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. So there's certainly a disadvantage for the Democrat Party. So they need to quit dying, right? I think there are definitely more plane crashes. I think so too, Annabese. And there was interesting passengers on the plane last night. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone, because I don't think I can pull it up in my memory bank. TMI, right? And I know that they identified a couple of them and said what they what type of work they did, and it was pretty fascinating. So, plane crash victims, excuse me, from yesterday. It was also interesting that flight, it didn't originate from Wichita. It originated from New York. Again, something about New York, man. I mean, I know it's the largest city. New York City is the largest city, obviously, in our country, but just a lot of activity with all of the planes in New York and the helicopter too. So the plane originated from New York, but it stopped to refuel in Wichita, Kansas. And so I thought that was odd that it was another plane from Wichita, Kansas that crashed, because the American Airlines on January 29th that was collided with the Black Hawk chopper over the Potomac River by Ronald Reagan International Airport. That airplane had also originated from Wichita. And Wichita is such a small city. So let's see if this will tell us some of the plane crash victims from yesterday. Yeah, now it's ringing a bell. My brain's starting to reactivate. I need more of that coffee. Plane crash claims lives of heavy metal music executive and metal drummer. Former The Devil Wears Prada drummer Daniel Williams among 6 killed when aircraft crashed into San Diego neighborhood. So the music agency Sound Talent Group said that 3 of its employees died on the small plane. Dave Shapiro, Daniel Williams, and those, let's see, Sound Talent Music Group is where Dave Shapiro worked, and Daniel Williams is the name of the Devil Wears Prada drummer. So yeah, really wild that it was musicians. Very, very sad. But yeah, way too many plane crashes. It seems to me that there's a lot more fatal plane crashes. I mean, of course, plane crashes happen every year, but we usually don't hear about them. Either that they're not fatal, or they're just, not that severe, like the wings getting clipped at the airport, at the Reagan airport on that plane that was headed to New York with the 6 lawmakers on it. Yeah. Let me drink the coffee. Drink the coffee, guzzle the coffee. I think that the wings getting clipped on planes, that kind of thing happens more than we hear about. So it's odd that we keep hearing about it. But it's also odd to me that there were lawmakers on that. My wife-in-law, yoga instructor, so confused. Wife-in-law, yoga instructor, her husband, my ex, and I went after him. Okay, I get it. I remember you telling me the wife-in-law yoga instructor. So your ex is her husband. So your ex-husband's new wife. So you and your ex-husband chase after him. Got it. And then did he get arrested? Because it sounded like he was being really perverted and disgusting. She had just released a class, and the guy motioned her to the door while she was talking to him, noticed him pleasuring himself simultaneously. She called her husband. I happened to be returning car. That's really disgusting. Yeah, I hope you guys kicked his arse. That's really disgusting. I don't know if they caught him, but apparently he had other victims. He was a very scary guy. Yeah, that is creepy AF. I mean, you're in Florida, right? And I mean, not to be at all judgmental or insulting. I like Florida, but there are a lot of crazies in that state. It attracts them. And then maybe all the heat like fries their brains, not to mention all the drugs that it seems like a lot of people that are attracted to Florida abuse. When they said drummer, made me think of 311 drummer Barker, his brother drunk driver in Placer County. Oh, I do not know about this, J.R. Nana. 311 drummer. I love that band, 311. And when was this car accident? Let me just see if I can find out what you're talking about, or if you want to fill me in more right there too. 311 drummer. Placer County MVA. Chad Sexton says the drummer for 311. But I don't see anything about that. The mother of the guy who was unalived. The mother was on Shan's live one night. Are you talking about there was a mom? I want to say she went on Ara's live. She was awesome. And her son, maybe she went on Shan's also. Her son was like 20 years old, and he was I think his car was hit by a drunk driver, somebody that was in the military, maybe active duty, but on a break. And they totally covered it up. And she was a nurse, and she was so articulate, and it was just so sad. Let me see if I can find anything about that. 20-year-old son. I think that might be what you're talking about. Killed in it was a terrible story. Absolutely terrible. I don't think I'm going to find it like this, though. Let's see, what say you, J.R. Nana? The mother of the guy who was unalived. I could be wrong. It was someone who is married to Kardashian. OMG. Yeah, this is all new to me. Nothing about a Kardashian. She was also on Ara's live. Okay, so maybe it is the same person. I just didn't know the Kardashian connection. I don't think I knew the musician connection either. The mom was amazing. She was so amazing. And Ara's live was really good with her on it. And then Ara takes down most of her lives, I think, because she was getting trolled so heavily. But I missed that woman going on to Shan's live. So I'll set my phone down. I don't want to fub you guys. So yesterday I had my brand new Apple Watch on, and I was fubbing you guys with my wrist as well, and trying to use Siri, and I'd never used that Apple Watch or Siri or anything like that. I mean, I use the Siri that we have in our house, but I want to say that we have Alexa in the house. Anyway, my family's all up to speed with the electronic devices, and I'm not. So I just kind of like hobble along and utilize my family members as my crutches. So you'll have to excuse me for that. But it was hilarious. I thought that I was trying to wear my watch and use it for the first time while I was live yesterday. So that was probably another thing throwing me off as I was trying to crunch all those numbers. So, I wanted to talk about the Cash Patel interview with what is his name, Dan Bongino. So Dan Bongino and Cash Patel are in charge of the FBI, which is I find extremely frightening. They had an interview this last Sunday, which I find extremely odd to be interviewing on a Sunday. They were talking a lot about the Virginia Giuffre case. Well, actually, the Jeffrey Epstein piece of it, and how, although they both have often said over the years that neither of them believe that he's self-unalived, now all of a sudden, 3 months into their new positions, they are just like completely flipping the script. Like, of course he unalived self and nobody did anything. And yeah, there might be things suspicious, but that doesn't mean anything. And this content creator, I wrote down his name, I think, I hope. Did I not? I did. Jesus Enrique Rosas show. He's a body language analyst, and from what I know of him, because I like his work, I've watched him before, he's an ardent Trump supporter. But he was very critical of Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, which I think is very accurate. He was really breaking down things that I don't know that much about, like when people are pressing their lips together or, rolling their eyes or nodding their heads, things that body analysts know, but some of it might come off as being intuitive. Like, of course, when somebody nods their head, if they're saying something that's like negative, like no, when they're nodding their head and they say no, something's up, right? And things like Cash Patel looking at Dan when he was answering a question, but looking at Dan for reassurance. And then the screenshot that I took of Cash Patel with his eyes like bugging out of his head, like way more than average. Like his eyes are always bugging out of his head. But in that meeting, particular, in that interview, his eyes were so wide open. And I guess people that do interrogations, they call that the four whites, when you can see the white around the iris, top, bottom, and both sides, that's when you know somebody is full of it, allegedly. So things like laughing when they're not saying anything funny. I think this was a quote from Dan Bongino. Am I saying his name right? Bongino, I think. The guy who was like, he had some affiliation with the CIA. Was he like a CIA operative? And then he's had his own podcast for a long time. Total conspiracy theorist. But now all of a sudden that he's put in this job, he's done a 180 on pretty much everything that he has always said that he believes in. He said the funniest quote, "What you are looking for there is not there." And he kept saying there, there, there. It reminded me a lot of when Clinton was trying to go over what the definition of is. It depends how you define is and what your definition of is. Very bizarre. Very, very strange. What you're looking for is not there. Plus, in stating what you're looking for is not there, nobody said anything about what they might be looking for. It's like he's already jumping to a conclusion before he's making his statement. There was a lot of that kind of stuff. And some of, let's see. Oh, he said this thing about, we have 2 live investigations. This was in response to questions from the interviewer about the assassination attempts against El Presidente. And they both said, and they're conferring with each other and making eye contact, like, this is what we were going to say, right? And that's not just my interpretation. That was Jesus Enrique Rosa's interpretation. So they said that 2 of the perps were deceased. So those investigations had ceased because the perpetrators were deceased. So that would mean like that kid whose last name Crooks up on the roof in Pennsylvania, the sniper shooter. And I don't know who the other one would be that they're referring to, because there were the 3 alleged assassination attempts, and really the one that happened at the rally, and then the one that they nipped in the bud at the golf course, and then there was another thing that didn't really happen either. And so it kind of sounded like there was 4, but to say that there were 2 perps that were deceased, so therefore the investigations were dropped, that makes 0 sense. That is not how something like that would go. If somebody makes an assassination attempt against a president, that's going to get investigated completely and thoroughly, no matter what. I mean, you have to know all the details. Knowledge is power, and you have to know everything about the perp's life and death and anybody that he may have communicated with and all of that. But then they said that there were 2 live investigations, which was a very weird choice of words. Live investigations rather than active investigations. Just bizarre. 2 live investigations, and out of respect for the live investigations, they weren't going to be discussing that information. Well, of course, like, you don't need to explain that to anybody. You just say there's 2 active investigations, so no comment on those, right? Just really, really strange. But what was that question that Cash was answering about Epstein, how it obviously was a self-unaliving, because Cash was just like rambling off all of these reasons why he would know it was a self-unaliving, because he's an expert in that, and he's seen this and that and the other thing, and he's been in segregated housing. Did you guys catch that? So not a lot of people have stopped to rewind that and say, wait, what? What does segregated housing have to do with any of this? Segregated housing? Okay. I don't know. Very, very odd. And then this, I think this was a Kash Patel quote. We have been extremely briefed on every point of the investigation. We have been extremely briefed on every point of the investigation. Well, as the head of the FBI and the assistant director of the FBI, I would certainly hope that you've been briefed on every point of every investigation. I mean, come on. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. I wrote this note to myself about, this was right before I came on live, about RFK Jr. and his little dip that he took in the Rock Creek Park River on Mother's Day with his grandkids. And, he fully submerged his head. and that water has been contaminated since, I believe, 1971 is when they initially closed it down, because there was raw sewage going directly into it. There's E. coli in there. It's not safe. There's signs everywhere. So basically, what is that, like 54 years that you've not been allowed to go in the water in Rock Creek Park? But he took a swim. At least he kept his pants on. I was afraid he was going to go skinny dipping in front of his grandkids, honestly. He did. The parents were there too. I think both, at least the mom of the kids was. I think maybe the dad too. I'm not sure about that. But it was Mother's Day. He's not concerned about the raw sewage in the water that he's putting his face under. The guy who claims that he had a brain worm, and this is exactly how you would get a brain worm, is in contaminated water like that. But yet he's all freaked out about fluoride in the water. So his plan is to take fluoride out of the general population's drinking water, which I think that's a bad idea. I think fluoride has helped people's teeth. It's like so abundantly clear. All you have to do is look at the UK, where they don't have fluorinated water, and the people that live there and their teeth situation with the teeth of people who live where there's fluorinated water. I mean, even my husband grew up on a farm with a well without fluorinated water, and he has a problem with soft teeth and a lot of dental work that he's had to have. I know there can be some dangers of fluoride in your water and that there is an argument for both sides, but overall it seems ridiculous, especially in light of not being afraid of the E. coli and the poop in the water that you're dunking your head in with your grandkids, to then be all flipped out about fluoride in the water. That makes zero sense. But then he makes zero sense, saying, don't take my medical advice. What, I'm just the Secretary of Health. That's all. Don't take my medical advice. It's like, well, no, you're not a medical doctor. You're like a lawyer, and a lawyer with a very sketchy past and a very sketchy present, if you ask me, to have that scraggly of a voice, and to not be like drinking water or using throat lozenges or something. I mean, it's painful to listen to him talk, is it not? You're just like, oh my God, that sounds like he's about to die. Let me see. I think one of the dogs is trying to get in. Coco, come here, baby. How are you? There you go, bug. Oh, she's so cute. She likes to come into the studio to take a break from the little crazy dogs, because, we have the 5-month-old golden retriever, not golden retriever, what is she? Cocker Spaniel puppy. And then we have Mookie, and they're both completely insane. And then Coco is the one that survived the cancer, and she just likes to chill. So she comes in here to get away from their ruckusness. They are pretty wild indeed. So let's see. Annabeth says, sorry, I was washing dishes. So scary that happened, J.R. Nana. I remember the mom on Ara's Live. The drunk driver is brother to musician who is married to Kardashian. My life's kind of unusual. Maybe I dreamed the details. That's funny. But yeah, that would make sense. The brother to the musician who's married to Kardashian. And then the only musician I know that was involved with one of the Kardashians was actually Travis Scott was with Kylie Jenner. I don't know about other musicians involved with Kardashians. I'm trying to think. Not that I study up on them, but you can't help but run into some of that information. And yes, life is unusual, and it's all a dream, right? Hey, Fred Field, what's going on? I agree, fluoride in the water is a good thing. I was mowing the lawn. Good for you. Always good to do. Have you seen Sergio Denaro, deception detective expert, truth revealed? I'm into Delphi. Bodies in open area but not found till the next day. I don't think I am familiar. Is that the one whose channel is called Deception Detective, or the channel is called Truth Revealed? I don't think I'm familiar with that one. But yeah, the Delphi case is fascinating. Very, very sad. It's ridiculous to me. Again, it's sort of like Kylie Rodney's case and sort of like the Idaho 4 from jump. It's absurd. They're trying to say that they had videotape and audio tape of the perp from day one, and it took them 5 years to find him when he was like working in a very public setting. What was he, like a pharmacist technician at CVS or Walgreens or something like that, where he interacted with the public every day. I think they even had pictures of like the suspect, like either sketch interpretations of what this suspect might look like, or the pictures from the camera of the bridge guy. I think they had those up on the wall at the pharmacy, like right behind where he'd be standing talking to customers all day. But yeah, the whole thing with the guy who owns the property, Logan, is that his last name? And yeah, it just, that whole case makes zero sense. Absolutely zero sense. It's absolutely tragic. Ron Logan, the guy who owned the property, and then it was like he passed away in February of whatever year it was, a few years ago, maybe 2022. And then by October, they finally arrested somebody, but it had already been 5 years. And so it's like, why couldn't they have arrested somebody before he passed away? I mean, it just seems to me that he's involved, not just that it was his property, but with his history, with the parole violation, with the white pickup truck, with the timeline, with asking his cousin or friend to lie about an alibi. I mean, all of it. His domestic violence background, his creepiness with teenage girl background. Unbelievable. Um, so no, I don't think I'm familiar with Sergio Denaro, but I am somewhat familiar with the Delphi case. I haven't studied that one in depth because I couldn't, a lot of these cases, I just can't look at them when I just think they're so full of crap. Like the Karen Reed. It's just like, call me when it's over. Let me know how it turns out. And the Diddy crap too. I mean, it's completely out of control, crazy. I follow them at times, and then I'm just like, I just got to back off. Same with Idaho 4. Same with Kylie Rodney. I mean, it's just crazy making. You're just like hitting your head against a brick wall. Does Kanye count as a musician? Now, that's a funny question, J.R. Nana. You are just being goofy as ever, of course. I mean, of course he does. Why wouldn't he? Just because he's completely nuts and a Nazi, a black Nazi. Channel is Truth Revealed. He was on Case X Case last night. Oh, very cool. I'll have to check that out. CVS. He apparently processed pictures for the girls' memorial. Right. Thank you so much for that info, because I have heard that, but it's been a long time, so I had forgotten about that. Ron Logan, and the police accidentally taped over all of the tapes. Now, this I did not know. The police accidentally taped over all of the tapes. Do you mean like interviews with Ron Logan? Those kinds of tapes? Is that what you're talking about, JR and Nana? I really don't know what to believe about the Delphi case, but Richard Allen did some very strange behavior when he was in jail. Before the trial, he confessed to his family many times. I think he's confessed like 55 times, but I think he was also tortured. And I think that any of us under that type of duress would say anything that, if we're being like brainwashed and tortured and we think that saying what we think these people want to hear is going to make them stop. He was in solitary confinement for like an ungodly number of days in a row. I mean, just the physical attributes, the atrophying of his muscles that you can see with the naked eye. I mean, when he's like sitting there, like all deranged. And he didn't have, he actually ate his own feces. That's awful. He didn't have the best, like, he wasn't like the most mentally healthy person to begin with. I think he was like quasi self-injurious. I think he was pretty depressed for most of his existence. I can't believe how the state of Indiana lied and made up all of the interview tapes. Wow. Well, I know I've seen interview tapes of Richard Allen with the law enforcement. And yeah, the state of Indiana, I'm in Ohio. I'm right next to Indiana. And I'm not saying that there's not corruption in Ohio, because there certainly is. And there's corruption in every state, without a doubt, in my opinion. Indiana law enforcement seems to be the worst. And I don't know enough about the history of the state. I know that there's a lot of Klan activity. I know that it's close to Chicago, so you're going to have a lot of gangster type of stuff. We have a lot of gangster type of stuff down by Cincinnati, and I've told you guys about this once or twice. A town about 20 miles or 20 minutes north of Cincinnati, a small city called Hamilton. And the mafia actually created Hamilton because they would have their kingpins from Miami, New York, and Chicago all meet up in Cincinnati, and then they would get really annoyed with the pesky law enforcement there. So they started their own city where the Cincinnati police had no jurisdiction. So that's the history of Hamilton. And there's a lot of corruption in the state, or in our state. I already said that, but also in the city of Cincinnati in particular. And that's part of why. So I would think that mob money would have a lot to do with Indiana, since it's so close to Chicago. And then you're going to have to drive through Indiana to get to New York, or to, if you're headed down to Florida. I mean, Gary, Indiana, that's right there on the border when you're going to or from Chicago. That's a really seedy area. That's always been extremely high crime, very rundown. But yeah, Anna B's, that is insanity. And I did not know that part. I did a psychiatric evaluation once of a inpatient psychiatric patient in a psychiatric facility, that I don't think she ate any of her feces, but she had smeared it all over the walls and the windows of the room. It was an observation room, and it was absolutely disgusting. And I got called to do this crisis and commitment assessment from a psychiatric facility. It's like she's already committed. They just wanted her out of their facility, and I couldn't do that for them, because nobody's going to take somebody like that, and they had to deal with it. But they actually expected me to help them clean it up. I was like, nah, I'm a contractor. I work for the county. I don't work for your hospital. Wait a second. Is my thing not plugged in? One sec. It is not. That happens a lot. The thing just comes loose. Let me get that plugged in. And while I'm at it, let me see if I can put on my Apple Watch and do something with it. Let me just show it to you guys for anybody who didn't see it yesterday. It says no notifications, but it's got such a pretty picture. If it'll, there. I just borrowed that off of the internet. It's just a really cool, majestic waterfall. Blues and purples and black. Me like. Yeah, I haven't worn this since I tried it yesterday during my live. That was hilarious. So, I can't believe how the state of Indiana lied and made up all of the interview tapes. The county jail has the ability to put a person in solitary, but they sent him to prison with correctional officers wearing "In Odin We Trust" patches watching over him. Yeah, I never knew anything about that Odin stuff until Crime Circus started covering it like a year or so ago, 2 years ago maybe. I think it was about 2 years ago. And I'd never heard of any of that. And I think it's accurate. I definitely think it's accurate. Hello everyone. Apologies a bit later joining in this evening. Well, thank you so much for being here, my dear. The psychiatric person, therapist, whatever, she was a true crime follower, requested to work with Richard Allen. Oh, I've never even heard that part of it, JR, Nana. Very cool watch. Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about learning how to use it. I don't really know the slightest, I don't have the slightest clue as yet. Love the waterfall picture. Me too. And I'm glad, my daughter just got it all set up for me yesterday morning, I think. So yesterday was my first interaction with it. And now you're witnessing my second interaction with it. So I don't think I'll be trying to do anything with it since I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just trying to guzzle my bottomless cup of coffee here. I'm almost done. There we go. All right. We've just been on for over an hour. And what else did I want to talk about? I wanted to go back to talking about the eyes of Donnie and Don Jr. and just how weird it is to me that they have the one droopy eye and the one bug eye. And then, Cash Patel just has the two bug eyes. And a lot of times they're like looking two different directions. He kind of looks like a cartoon character, honestly. I'm thinking like the squirrel on that, what was that, like backyard movie with the squirrel that drank all the caffeine. That's just what you need, a squirrel on caffeine, right? That'd be like me. But yeah, his eyes are just so freaking bugged out, and he's just a bizarre individual. I mean, everything that comes out of his mouth is truly bizarre, in my opinion. He's a very unsavory character, very untrustworthy. And that's why I used the three of their images for my thumbnail, because, usually you look into somebody's eyes to get a feeling for who they are and what they're about. And you really can't look into any of their eyes. I mean, you can see their eyes, but I can't see anything past that. They're just very like shallow looking and kind of walled off in a sense. It's very disconcerting as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they're not the kind of people I would want in charge of anything. Really, honestly, nothing. Cash Patel is insane looking, isn't he? Did you see the thumbnail? I caught like probably one of the most insane images that I've ever seen of him. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, dang. And it's from that interview. It's from that interview from Sunday with, I want to say that I caught it, that I took that screenshot from the body language analyst, Jesus Enrique Rosas show. And I'm going to put a link in the description to that video because that was a really good video. And he just had a lot of great things to say. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Oh, I also wanted to share with you, do you guys know who George Conway is? I did not know who he was. I didn't have a clue. And I would see him on some of the channels that I like to watch, some of the YouTube channels. I think he's like a regular, maybe on things like Democracy Now!, Midas Touch, Rebel HQ. I'm not sure which channels, but channels like that he's a regular on. And he's kind of odd looking, to be frank, but he is amazing. He's extremely articulate, extremely compassionate. I've seen very few people like him in my lifetime, honestly. He's wildly impressive. And I had no idea who he was, so I started paying more attention to him. He might even have his own channel. Let me see if I can find out. George Conway YouTube. So he used to be married to Kellyanne Conway. Remember her? I would imagine you do. She was kind of unforgettable. And he was once a Trump supporter. And let's see. So he's a critic. He went to Yale and Harvard and Yale again. And the that's his high school, Marlboro High School. He founded the Lincoln Project. See, that's good to know. And maybe that's the name of the channel. Let's see. He's very active on Twitter, it looks like. And Blue Sky. What else? YouTube, LinkedIn. Anyway, so I remember back when Kellyanne Conway was part of the Trump administration in the first presidential term of Donnie, and I would hear that she had this really cool husband who was a Democrat, and that they were completely at odds politically, but they had a really good marriage. And, that first term was from 2016 till January of 2021. And they got divorced, I think, in 2023. So Kellyanne Conway is still a staunch Trump supporter, as far as I know. And George Conway is very much opposed. Like, it's just amazing to me how accessible he is emotionally. You rarely see that in men especially, but really you rarely see that in people on camera. He's very sensitive and, like I said, very articulate, very well educated. I want to say he's a professor somewhere too, but I think they have 4 kids. So they made it through the whole Trump administration, but then they got divorced a couple of years ago. They were married for 22 years. And what a cute couple, just being so opposite. Let's see. What else does it say in Wikipedia about him? He was considered by President Trump for appointment to 2 positions in the US Department of Justice, Solicitor General of the US and Assistant Attorney General. heading the civil division, but Conway withdrew himself from consideration. In 2018, Conway emerged as a vocal Trump critic, while his wife, Kellyanne Conway, worked for Trump from 2016 to 2020. During the 2020 presidential election, Conway was involved with the Lincoln Project, a coalition of former Republicans dedicated to defeating Trump. Don't they call them rhinos? I don't know. But yeah, I know that Lincoln was a Republican, but that back then being a Republican is more like what a Democrat is now, I believe, to my understanding. Anyway, so yeah, George Conway is just an extremely cool individual. And if you don't know who he is, I'll put a link to one of his good videos in the description. I really enjoy watching him. And I don't think I finished my whole thought there. What I started to say is that I was blown away when I realized that he was Kellyanne Conway's ex-husband. Because, like I said, I'd always heard that she had this really amazing lawyer husband who was very well versed and very articulate and very much stood against everything that she stood for, but yet they had a blissful union, but not no more. Patricia Moss, yay, I'm in alive. Only missed 19 minutes. Maybe I'll even try to chat. Oh, well, nice to see you again. I think you seem familiar, which has been a long time. Thanks for saying hi. Whoops, never sent that. I'm still here. That's hilarious. Yeah, I'm like 19 minutes. We've been on for an hour, like an hour and 19 minutes almost. Anyway, cool. Awesome. So what else to talk about? There's a new Trump administration appointee that I had not heard of before, who actually sounds a lot like RFK Jr. And I think his name is Frank Bisangio. Have you guys heard of Frank Bisangio? He's like the director of the Social Security Administration or something like that. I'm going to look it up so I can make sure I'm being precise. Frank Bisangio, confirmation hearing, Social Security, nomination. So it was confirmed earlier this month. So the way you spell his name is Bisingno. Bisangio. Took a stab at it. So it says Frank Bisangio's nomination to become the commissioner of the Social Security Administration has been confirmed, and he is now the current leader. He was nominated by President Trumpster in December 2024, and his nomination was confirmed by the Senate on May 6, 2025, after a brief withdrawal and reinstatement. He was sworn in on May 7th, 2025, which is very frightening because what I know of him is that he used Google to Google Social Security because he didn't really know anything about it. Like, seriously, that's what I heard him talking about. Oh, here we go. 2 hours ago on MSNBC News, leaked audio suggests Trump's new Social Security chief had to Google his own job. So I guess it's a new story. Hired from Wall Street, tells the staff that he had to Google the job. I mean, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and Google the job just to make sure that you're not missing anything obvious. But I'm pretty sure that the footage that I saw of him talking about it, he was saying that he knew nothing about it other than what he found on Google. And then he was joking, I'm like the best Googler on the East Coast, which, I could probably rival him. I'm a fairly good Googler too. But he also, when I was hearing him talk, at first I thought he was RFK Jr. He's got that same kind of like gravel pit in his voice. I found that really odd. I mean, if I sounded like that, I would drink hot tea with honey and lemon and try not to talk for a week or something. I mean, seriously, you got to take care of yourself. And I know I've read about RFK Jr.'s like spasmodic vocal cords, but it's so painful to listen to him talk. And then he just persistently keeps talking when he sounds like he's literally dying. It's just like, maybe have a job where you don't need to talk so much. I don't know. It's just an idea. Um, yes, Democrats and Republicans totally changed their position on every topic. Yeah. I mean, the thing that I don't like in politics these days is how it's like beyond oppositional, the Democrats and the Republicans. It's like this cutthroat, kill or be killed type of mentality, when it's like, it's fine to disagree, like agree to disagree, have some good debates about things, and have a democracy and see what laws pass, see what people get elected. But it really seems like the Republican Party, maybe, and I'm not solid on this, but from what I've learned, it seems like the Republican Party has been trying to end democracy for a long time. Like, they want to be in power, they want basically aristocracy. Um, it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. And that I didn't even want to talk about that freaking bill that was passed yesterday. I can't believe that thing was passed. When I came onto my live, I don't think I knew that it had passed yet. And I really just felt like it can't. Like, the world will come to an end if it does. There's a lot of crazy stuff in there. And I don't get it, you guys. I really just don't get it. And I feel like it's true crime at its best in our political system. And that looking away, not paying attention, is the most dangerous thing to do. That it's important to keep your eye on the ball and see what's happening and pay attention and make your voice heard. I really think that also, Jazz, ever since Ronald Reagan. Oh, see, I know a lot of people liked him. I was living in Southern California at the time that he was elected, and he was the state's governor, and he had a house in Malibu where I lived at the time. He didn't live at it was like a ranch that he had in Malibu, like oceanfront, like on a cliff over the beach. That was where his horse ranch was, but he actually lived in the Pacific Palisades. That's where his house was. But everybody thought he was a joke. He was just like this John Wayne flunky wannabe. He was essentially like a bad actor that couldn't make it acting, so then he went into politics, and he got a lot of support in politics. And I mean, his second term winning 49 out of 50 states was unprecedented. And now they've like renamed half of everything in America after him, and the other half will be named after the Trumpster fire, if he has anything to do with it. But it really bothered me how people put him on this pedestal, because he didn't seem like a good politician. He didn't seem like a good person. He was good looking. He was tall. He had a square jawline and broad shoulders. But I think he was a liar too. Like, he had black hair in his 70s, and he swore up and down that he never dyed his hair. It's like, but he never said that his hairdresser never dyed his hair. So I guess, maybe he has never dyed his hair. But it was just so bizarre. Like, and one of the best Halloween costumes, I think, of all times is just like the black plastic Ronald Reagan hair. It's just creepy. Absolutely creepy. But his whole trickle down theory was obnoxious. And that's what we're dealing with again with the Trumpster fires. Like, give all the money to the billionaires that already have all the money, give them all of the more money. And then all the peasants can just go without. They don't need food. They don't need shelter. They don't need health care. Just basically let them fall off the face of the earth is the way I see it. But no, then they're like, no, it's the trickle down theory. Then the bazillionaires will hire all the peasants to do odd jobs and give them little breadcrumbs to live on. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I felt like people really put him on a pedestal when they started renaming all these highways and things after him. And Cincinnati has a Ronald Reagan thoroughfare that just cuts right through the middle of the city from the east to the west. It's a good thoroughfare, but I just think it's weird to have all this stuff named after him. And the airport in DC. I mean, Dulles Airport is the alternative. So you've got Dulles and you've got the Ronald Reagan International Airport. I don't know. The one thing I remember very specifically, because I was in high school or junior high school when he won the election, and George Bush Sr. was his vice president. And then there was the assassination attempt against him, the guy who had was lovesick for Jodie Foster. And then what I wanted to say is Nancy Reagan, she had her Just Say No to Drugs campaign, which, was a good one, except that it's just not that simple when you account for peer pressure and self-medicating and stuff like that. It's not so easy. It's not so cut and dry. And especially when you're getting slipped things, like girls getting roofied at parties, which I think still happens way too much. But one of the most interesting things that I don't think people talk about or think about anymore, the one thing that was extremely controversial about Ronald Reagan when he ran for the position was he was, I think, the first candidate to have ever been married more than once, having been divorced. I can't remember if Nancy was divorced also or if that was her first marriage. But that was extremely scandalous at the time, to have a president that had been married before. Of course, Biden's been married before. His first wife, I think, died in a car accident or something. What, with a child of theirs or something, I think. I know he had another child die in the military fighting for our country. But, now we've got this president who has been married 3 times and had an affair with a porn star right after his third wife had his baby. And she's kind of like a soft porn star, in my opinion. And, he cheated on his first wife with Marla Maples, who was so young. She was allegedly 23 when they got together, and he was like 26 years older than her, so 49. That's what they say. I think that, but they always fudge around with the numbers. So maybe she was 23. For all we know, she could have been a lot younger, for all we know. So he was cheating on Ivana with Marla Maples when Marla was so young, and his kids were so young. I think that Eric was like 1 or 2. Don Jr. was maybe like 8, give or take a year. And then Ivana, she's the middle child. I can't remember the age difference, like roughly 4 years either way, maybe. So she was probably about 5 ish when Ivana confronted Marla Maples. Oh, I had said that it was on a ski trip. Like the family went skiing and Marla went skiing too at the same resort. And then Ivana ran into her and created a big scene. I had mistakenly said, I think it was last week or the week before, that it was in Tahoe, and it was not in Tahoe. I think it was actually Aspen. I'm pretty sure it was Aspen. But anyway, there was a big scene, and I'm pretty sure that was when Marla was 23. I'm not sure. Eventually, she had Trump's child out of wedlock. Tiffany was born, was it 2 years before they were married? It might have been, because he was probably still entangled with the details of the divorce and the alimony with Ivanka or Ivana. Ivanka's their daughter. But anyway, just recounting the infidelity and the cheating. Of course, he cheated on Marla Maples too. Their marriage only lasted for a couple of years. I think it was like 6 years on paper until the divorce was final, but things got really shaky really quickly. Surprise, surprise. And then allegedly Melania was like 26 when they got together. Allegedly. She's like 50. She just turned 55 last month. It was her birthday, the day of the Pope's funeral. That was Melania's 55th birthday. Looking at the photographs of her and her husband at that funeral, I don't believe that was her present with the president at the Pope's funeral on her 55th birthday. That does not look like her at all. I mean, I've put photographs of her from that day. She's got the black veil, and it might be one reason why she has a black veil too, if it's not her and somebody trying to like be a body double for her. But I've put photographs of her on my community posts, and I've also used it in a thumbnail. But once I saw that, then I started to think more about the hat that she wore on Inauguration Day. The big black and white hat where she looked like the Spy versus Spy cartoon character, and the brim was like 6 inches out so you couldn't see her eyes, and Trump couldn't kiss her, and when he tried, she just like leaned her rim of her hat into his face, basically. And so I think a lot of us thought, oh, she wore the hat so that Donnie couldn't kiss her. But then when I saw what I don't believe was her on her 55th birthday at the Pope's funeral, and again, that was the morning after Virginia Giuffre unalived, allegedly. Once I saw her with the veil, and who I don't think was her, I thought, well, maybe that wasn't her on Inauguration Day either. Maybe that's why she had that hat, was to go undetected as a body double. I don't know. I mean, body doubles are something that famous people do routinely for safety and a variety of other reasons. But it just does not look like her. And they don't seem to have much of a marriage. They just hit their 20th anniversary. I want to say it was like this last February. It was right around. Oh, don't tell me that their wedding anniversary is February 11th, because that would be really weird. I'll tell you why in a second. Let's see. Trump anniversary. Trump. What is their wedding date? January 22nd. Good, because I think February 11th was the date last year that Mitch McConnell's wife's little sister, Angela Chow, passed away. And I was going to be like, if that was on their anniversary date, that would be weird. So their 20th wedding anniversary was just 2 days after the inauguration. That's crazy. And yeah, like they didn't really seem to celebrate it, but who are we to judge, right? Um, let's see. So yeah, it was 2 days after the inauguration day. You would think that they would have made a bigger deal of it publicly, but it seems to me that um, their wedding certificate is purely functional, purely transactional at this point. And I'm of the opinion that it always has been. I'm of the opinion that she was much more of a mail order bride than anything else. I think that they both will admit to the first time that they consummated their relationship was on what does Jeffrey Epstein's airplane go by? Lolita Express. That's a really sickening reference for anybody who doesn't know. Lolita Express is treacherous. I am going to Google that and read it to you because it's unreal. I think a lot of people know, but not everybody. So it's from a movie. If you look up Lolita, it's a 1955 novel written by Russian American novelist Vladimir Nabokov. The protagonist and narrator is a French literature professor who moves to New England and writes under the pseudonym Humbert. He details his obsession and victimization of a 12-year-old girl, Dolores Hayes, whom he describes, trigger warning, as a nymphette. Humbert kidnaps and essays Dolores after becoming her stepfather. Privately, he calls her Lolita, the Spanish diminutive for Dolores. The novel was written in English, but fear of censorship in the US, where Nabokov lived, and Britain led it to be first published in Paris, France in 1955 by Olympia Press. The book has received critical acclaim regardless of the controversy it causes with the public. It has been included in many lists of best books, such as Time's list of the 100 best novels, Le Monde's 100 books of the century, Booklobin, World Library, Modern Library's 100 best novels, and The Big Read. The novel has twice been adapted into film, first in 1962 by Stanley Kubrick and later in 1997 by Adrian Lyne. It has also been adapted several times for the stage. So, pretty effing crazy, in my opinion. Yeah. And then the Lolita airplane, Epstein's old airplane, was used by Donnie during his campaigning for his first administration, for his first presidential campaign. And he says that he didn't know that that's what it was. He didn't know. Like, that's just BS. That's sort of like the I don't remember kind of thing. Like, he knows where his planes come from. Give me a break. That's just gross. To play dumb, like, again, with corruption, they will always pull the buffoon card and I don't know nothing. I didn't know anything about it. Um, And Anna B says, I really think that also Jazz, ever since Ronald Reagan, I don't like him. Yeah, it just blows my mind how everybody acts like he was excellent. I mean, I thought he was quite the opposite, personally. I'm saying he changed everything for the worse. He broke up the unions. That was one of the worst things he did. I really didn't like him at all. No, Jazz, the inauguration was January 20th, right? Isn't that what I said? The wedding anniversary was January 22nd. I don't know what it means. Oh my gosh, so disgusting. I can't believe you didn't know what it meant, Anna Bees. But yeah, I honestly, I didn't know. I knew what the reference was referring to, but I didn't know the details until more recently. And I looked it up and I was just like, ugh. I knew that it was, you know, young, hot chicks. I just didn't know how young, and I didn't know the extent. Like, that's really gross. 12 years old. But, Jeffrey Epstein allegedly victimized 11-year-olds. And even in that first court case that Alex Acosta screwed up, the sweetheart of a deal where Epstein got the lightest sentence imaginable for abusing 40 victims that were coming forward in that court case, 40 of them. And they say that they were all in the age range of 14 to 16, but there was, I think, more than one 13-year-old in that group of 40. Again, they're always fudging with the numbers, just shaving a little bit off or adding a little bit on. And it doesn't seem like it's by accident. It seems like it's by design. So you said little T's in Melania's anniversary is February 22nd. Thank you, Anna Bees. You're very helpful. Because, yeah, I was thinking of the February 11th was the date of Angela Chow's car accident last year when she died in the Tesla in the water on her husband's business's property there in Austin, Texas, with her girlfriends from Harvard. She was kind of having a little reunion with the women that she went to school with from Harvard. So her and Elaine, the one that Mitch McConnell is married to, and another one of their sisters went to Harvard. There's 6 daughters in that Chow family, no sons, and half of the daughters went to Harvard. And, the parents were extremely successful, and they had their big shipping company that then Angela Chow inherited, being like the CEO officer of that company. And, big time shipping with China. So it just all seems kind of weird that was February 11th last year. And then on Melania's birthday, March 26th or April 26th. I think it's April 26th. I'll have to look. Or somebody wants to look it up for me. That was when that shipping cargo ship hit the bridge in Baltimore and messed up the shipping and the traffic for a while. That was on Melania's 54th birthday. And, just 2 or 3 months after Angela Chow passed away. Just a lot of coincidence, synchronicity with China and shipping and Tesla, because it was a Tesla car that Angela Chow died in because the windows lock, the doors lock when the car is submerged, and there's like one secret way to get it to open, and maybe she didn't know that secret way, or maybe she just couldn't get to it in time if she did know it. But she also had one of those things to like break the glass, but the glass on those Teslas is laminated, so you can't break it. And I think it took like 2 minutes for the car to sink, and her friends were right there, and there was like one of the ranch hands was right there, him and his wife, and they were all trying to help her, and nothing could be done. And then there were just like all these screw ups with the first responders, just one thing after another. It took like an hour before the first responders were able to extract her from the car. So by then, of course, it was far too late. And it just happened to be in a Tesla, and she just happened to be the CEO of this big China shipping company. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, thank you for straightening me out, Annabise. I do that a lot when I'm talking too fast and I don't catch myself. It's annoying. So I appreciate that. So what else shall we talk about before we wrap up? It's already an hour and 45 minutes, so we probably should just wrap it up so that I'm not rambling on forever and ever. Thank you guys so much for being here with me, and I hope you have a really good holiday weekend. I hope that I can make at least one video over the holiday weekend. I'm really happy I was able to come on live with you today and not be so rushed. Was there anything else that yeah, just going back to those assassination attempts on the Trumpster fire, and how Cash was saying that there's 2 live investigations, and that the other 2 investigations were halted because the perps were no longer alive. That makes about as much sense as like in the Watts case, the DA Rourke saying that they halted the investigation because Chris Watts confessed. Like, you don't halt the investigation. You still investigate to make sure that they're telling the truth, because I'll give you a hint, they never are. So, that's crazy. And even the CBI investigators on that case, like Tammy Lee, they were just sucker punched over it not being investigated anymore. Like, they wanted to know the answers. They were very invested. They felt like they knew Shanann and these little babies. I mean, absolutely disgusting. And then if anybody else was involved and got away, and there's many of us who believe that at the very least NK was involved and got away, and that more than likely it was more than just NK that was involved. Maybe that guy Jim, maybe the friend who had come to visit her that weekend. What was her name? The one who her mom just had the funeral, and then we all saw the picture of NK from that funeral. I'm forgetting the name of that friend. But then you had Tony, what's his name? Weird name. No, not Tony. Sorry, Troy McCoy. So Troy McCoy seemed like he was involved. Jim seemed like he was involved. The friend that came to stay with NK for that weekend, whose mother just passed away a few months ago, seems like she was involved. Let's see if I can grab my phone real quick and look that up. Because that was like the first confirmed sighting of Nicole Kessinger for a long, long time. Charlotte, isn't that her name? Yeah, I have to hold my phone to be able to think. Nicole Kessinger's friend's mom's funeral. And was that the same friend whose dad had passed away back then? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that friend's name is Charlotte, but I don't know if I'll be able to find it on anything here. I could ask my friend what's the obsession. She would know. Let me see if I look it up in a different way. One sec, and then we'll wrap up. Friend Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte Nelson. She can be found in the discovery. So best friend. Charlotte Nelson is Nicole's best friend. They've known each other since high school, but only became closer years later. And you know that story about NK assaulting somebody with a sharp-edged object when she was a minor appears to be true. The case is sealed because she was a juvenile, but there's been a lot of research done by many people because on the circuits of true crime, a lot of people figured that that was made up, but that appears to be true. So we'll end on that. I'm glad that you're able to be here too, Annabise. Yeah, Charlotte, there you go. You're following the case. Yeah. Yeah, so Charlotte's father had passed away around the same time as the familicide, and NK just couldn't be bothered with it. But again, that would make sense if she was caught up in what we think she was caught up in. I mean, I'd say caught up in what she was caught up in because she was caught up in it. Even if everything she says is true, which we know it's not, like that's still very involved. Very, very involved. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Sending you all light and love. Thanks so much for being here and watching. And, any comments that you might have, put in the comments section. And have a really good weekend. Make sure you drink your water so you don't get the gravel pit voice like RFK Jr. And eat your veggies, eat your protein, get some fresh air, sunshine, all that good stuff. And don't go swimming in the sewage. Don't go swimming in the raw sewage water, right? Not that any of us ever would. And before I wrap up, I found the hat, the Love is All You Need. That's the cool hat that one of my mods ordered for me. And I think that I thought it said love saves lives, and that's how I came up with that on my to add to JusticeAtooZ on my channel, which does make it a lot easier for people to find. With just the JusticeAtooZ, you couldn't find it unless you knew to type in Kylie Rodney's name. But now with JusticeAtooZ, Love Saves Lives, of course, it comes right up. Top of the heap. I hope you and everyone has a great holiday weekend. Bye, everyone. Love and light. And thank you guys so much for being here. You mean the world to me. See you soon. Take care.